U.S. Attorney's Office.
Hello, is this the U.S. Attorney's Office for Chris Myers of North Dakota?
That is correct, yep.
Great. Okay. I'm calling on behalf of a friend of mine. He spent the last 35 years in prison, and I kind of wrote out, it's just like 5 sentences. Do you mind if I read it to you, and maybe you can take some notes and get this message to Chris Myers?
Okay.
Great. Okay. So I'm not a legal guy, but I'm trying my best. So, again, the man's name is Scott Faul, F-A-U-L. He's been in prison 35 years. And his prison number, if you guys need to look it up, is 04564-059. 04564-059. And here's the message that I would like to get to Mr. Myers. It says, and keep in mind, he's been in prison for 35 years. The government claimed Mr. Faul is guilty of aiding and abetting second-degree murder. So that was the charge that he was convicted of. And then this is what I was told. It is my understanding that one of the critical elements of that crime is that Mr. Faul would have to have knowledge of someone's intent to kill another person. So if you're going to be convicted of second-degree murder or aiding and abetting second-degree murder, you have to know that someone's going to kill somebody. And I am familiar with the whole situation of Gordon Call and Scott Faul and Yori Von Call, so anybody who's familiar with that situation knows that there's no way Scott could have known that anybody was going to kill anybody. So if that's an element that's required for the charge that he's sitting in prison for, my question to Mr. Myers is, can Mr. Myers please provide proof via transcripts that will verify that the jury was asked to find that critical element of the offense? And so that's really the question that I have for him. I'm told by Mr. Faul that the jury was never instructed to find that critical element, and it's Mr. Faul's strong belief that he spent the last 35 years in prison unjustly, and I'm starting to believe that too. But I hope that made sense. I tried to write it out so I said it properly, but did that make any sense what I said, and is it possible to get that to Mr. Myers?
That does make sense. I think what I would have you do is probably speak to his legal assistant, if you don't mind.
Sure, you bet. You bet.
I will transfer you back there. Her name is Lori, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yep, one moment. Hello, can I help you?
Hi, my name is Rudy Davis. I run a Christian prison ministry in Texas, and I have a friend that I've gotten to know pretty good named Scott Faul. He spent the last 35 years in prison. There was a shootout in North Dakota, Medina, North Dakota, in February the 13th, 1983, and it got a lot of attention back then. But I spoke to the lady up front, and I think she transferred me to you, referring to you as his legal assistant. I guess Chris Myers is the North Dakota U.S. Attorney. And I'm not a legal guy. I'm just doing the best that I can to help my friend out. And he asked me to call you guys and relay a message if I could. And if you got just a second, I'd like to read it. It's no more than 5 sentences.
Okay.
Okay, no, great. Yeah,
I'm not going to be able to.
Yeah, I'm just asking you to listen and what you decide to do. It's for Scott Faul, and he's been in prison 35 years. His number is 04564-059. He's in the Sandstone, Minnesota prison, and here it is. It says the government claimed Mr. Faul is guilty of aiding and abetting second-degree murder. That would be back in 1983. He's been in prison 35 years. So that was the charge that he was convicted on, aiding and abetting second-degree murder. It is my understanding that one of the critical elements of that crime would be that Mr. Faul would had to have knowledge that someone is going to kill somebody. And so I am kind of familiar with the situation. I've read a lot of books on the whole situation with Gordon Call, Yori Von Call, Scott Faul. It was a big news event back then. And I think it's a reasonable thing to say that nobody knew anybody was going to kill anybody when that incident happened on that road on that fateful day. So my question to Mr. Myers is, and I would hope that someone could just ask him to please look into this, can Mr. Myers please look into or provide proof that the transcripts of Scott Faul's case would verify that the jury was asked to find that critical element, for the crime, that if you're going to be convicted of aiding and abetting second-degree murder, there ought to be proof in the transcripts that someone told the jury that he had to have knowledge that someone was going to kill somebody. But anybody that knows the situation thinks it's very unlikely that anybody knew anybody was going to die that day until the shooting started. And, it's widely believed, and I'm certainly hold this belief, that Scott Faul didn't pull the trigger and shoot anybody, that it was Gordon Call that did the shooting. But my only request is, please, if you could bring this up to, the U.S. Attorney for North Dakota, Chris Myers. And I just feel very concerned that we have Scott Faul, who spent 35 years in prison unjustly. You probably hear this all the time, but I do feel like this is a case that's worthy of his attention. And if he could just look into that question, was the jury told of the critical element that Scott Faul would have had to have pre-knowledge that somebody was going to be killed? It's Scott Faul's position that he didn't know anybody was going to die, so how could he have aided and abetted in second-degree murder? So I hope that made sense. I'm not a legal guy, but I did want to make a call on my friend's behalf.
Okay, I'll pass on along the message.
Okay, you mind if I get your name, just to say that I've told Scott and say
yeah, I'm not going to give you my name.
Okay. All right, well, as long as you're a representative of Chris Myers, I pray that it gets to him.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, she didn't want to give me her name, but anyway, I got another phone call, so I did try. God bless.